Hey guys, welcome to episode 68 of the Pixel Street Podcast. I am your host for this week, John Hansen, joined by the one and only Connor Kopp. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing alright. But it doesn't matter how we're doing because we are here each and every week. We get together, talk about one of the things we love most, video games. Joel, as you can tell, is not here today. He was too overexcited by Comic-Con and ended up selling his soul to get a ticket to go see what the big deal was over there. So you can just expect to see some news posting about him dying in Argentina next week or something like that. Moving on. You can find the Pixel Street Podcast on most podcast platforms on Fridays, as well as on YouTube, and you can also watch the show directly on our Facebook group by searching Pixel Street Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Pixel Street Pod. Once we hit 100 followers there, we're giving away a game. We're about halfway right now. So yeah, some followers will decide a game later on down the road, but also there you can recommend topics of the week for us. We will literally talk about anything that you have coming out of your pretty little face. This week we will be discussing Overwatch Role Queue, superhero video games in general, a new Nintendo Switch coming out that's not named The Light, and our personal game of the year so far. Connor, let's take a look into what are some new releases coming out that you're excited about.
Well, Friday, we've got Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order. It's been a real long time since I played one of those, but looks interesting. I
will say I am reviewing that game for our website, so be sure to keep your eyes out for that. Also, we have City Skyline for the Switch releasing. That will be pretty cool to see portably, since I think it's only available on PC, Xbox, and PS4 so far, right? That wasn't a phone thing or anything, right?
That sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, so build your city on the go there. I do know that Tetris Effect this coming Tuesday is coming to the PC. This was one of the PS4's biggest games last year. Well, in the last half of the year, I should say. It's coming to the PC, so you can get a chance at playing that. But other than that, not too much on here that I would definitely say is exciting. Just kind of Marvel Ultimate Alliance and those two ports. Yeah, everything on here. Unless you are super excited about Gabuchi. Are you excited for Gabuchi?
You know, the name makes me excited for Gabuchi, but other than that, I'm going to go ahead and say no. I'm not excited for Gabuchi.
That's too bad. Alright, Connor, you want to take the free games of the month?
Sure, absolutely, can do. So, for Xbox, we're going to kick off there with your games with gold. We currently have all the way until the 31st Inside available. Very good game. Highly recommended around here, so definitely check that one out. All the way until August 15th, you actually have your chance to grab Big Crown Showdown as well. And it looks like you just missed out on Rivals of Aether and Castlevania, actually, from the looks of it. Both of those guys ended, so Inside and Big Ground are your two.
Yes. I started playing Rivals of, I think it's pronounced Ether.
Sure.
You could have said it wrong, but I mean, you could have said it right. I could be wrong, but I think that's how you pronounce it. So I started playing that earlier today because I had a little bit of free time, and it's pretty much a 2D sprite Smash clone. So if you don't have a Nintendo Switch and you're really feeling the Super Smash Bros. Itch, if you downloaded that, give it a try. It's definitely a bit weird playing it on not a Switch, but hey, it was decent for what it was, and it was free. Moving on to our PlayStation 4 games of the month, we have Detroit Deluxe, it's Detroit Become Human with Heavy Rain, and then Horizon Chase Turbo. And of course, I don't have the Xbox Game Pass games up quite yet.
I've got those pulled here. Give me a second, I can tell you. Looks like today just dropped Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain and Banner Saga 3, but I do know there was a couple other that was announced. Looks like Killer Instinct Definitive Edition, Resident Evil 4 for the King, and Nightcall, in addition to the two that I just said, Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain and Banner Saga 3.
Yeah, we should say For the King is already on the console version. That announcement was it's coming to the PC version as well. Any of those games you generally interested in?
I gotta say it's pretty interesting to see Resident Evil 4 come through, especially with Resident Evil 2 being so popular. It'd be nice to kind of jump back in and check out, one of the more well-liked versions or entries into the series. So might jump into that. And then also Banner Saga 3, I think I fell off that one a couple times. I keep trying to start that one because I've heard it's a very good tactics game, but it's just not hooking me. So Game Pass might be the way to get into it. That matters to me, but other than that, I'm not seeing much here.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Resident Evil 4 bandwagon. I never gave it a try back in the day, but I do like Resident Evil. Horror games generally aren't my thing, but Resident Evil is one that I'm always willing to give a try. And I was a very big fan of 5, and 4 was just the start of that kind of gameplay. That's when they really shifted to that over-the-shoulder combination with kind of the tanky controls and everything. That's where it really got popular. Yeah, but everything else here, Killer Instinct, I'm not interested in, and Banner Saga, not interested in, and I've never gotten in the Metal Gear, so I don't really see myself starting Phantom Pain. But who knows? For the people that are really interested in that, though, it's there for them. That's awesome. Finishing off our free games right now on Twitch Prime, you can get Aegis Defenders, Stickbold, 10-Second Ninja X, Metronomicon, and until September 24th, you can get free 12 months of Nintendo Online with your Twitch Prime account. Connor, what have you been playing this week?
Man, a whole lot of Destiny. I have just played Destiny, then I stopped, then I played some more Destiny, then I stopped, and then I took a nap, and then I played more Destiny, actually.
Dreamt about Destiny.
Yeah, most of that story. I know you've been pretty frustrated with us because we game together in our off time, and that's all I've been touching and just not playing anything else, and you're not much of a Destiny player, so that's been a little annoying that we haven't been able to get together simply because I have an addiction and it's a problem.
And you just don't love me like you used to, so yeah.
Well, it's not you, it's Destiny. That's what it is. No, I'm ongoing with the Destiny grind, just again catching up with some of the exotic stuff that I haven't got around to. Today, actually, we completed one of the newer raids that I missed out on, which was Scourge of the Past, and I was blown away by how short it was. We had some hiccups and stuff, but overall playtime, it only took us like 20 minutes to a half hour to complete, which was kind of crazy. I wasn't expecting that. We actually got to the end of it, and I was like, okay, what's next? And the guys were like, no, we're done. And I was like, that's not, sure, okay, yeah, definitely.
That's really short for a raid.
Especially for an endgame activity of that level, this is something that they added as part of the annual pass, if I'm not mistaken, back in the Black Armory DLC bundled in. And, yeah, it was just pretty underwhelming, so a little disappointed in that, but other than that, just planning to grind through there and play some more, try to continue catching up on that content that I missed out on before Shadowkeep drops here before too long, and that's most of it. I haven't really been doing much of anything else. What about you, John? What are you playing?
So I played A Plague Tale: Innocence over the last week, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed this game. It was something that I first heard about probably last year sometime, and it was just one of those games that it wasn't like a big release or anything. It's kind of in that AA kind of area that is easy to forget about. But it came out in May. When it came out, I was like, oh, I really want to play this, and I just didn't have the money to, so I just waited for it to come into my GameStop, and I borrowed it because I work there. And man, I really enjoyed it. So if you don't know, it's about you play as this girl named Amicia, and you are supposed to be taking care of your brother during a rat plague. So he's very sick. This army is after him, so you're protecting him and yourself from that deal and just trying to avoid all these rats. So you have to use light from fire to save yourself, and you can also use some alchemy to make these different combinations of stuff that will affect the rats in different ways, like hurting them in a certain area, or you can melt the helmet on a soldier's face so that they have to take it off so you can sling them in the face. Really cool stuff there. Gotta say, I was absolutely in love with it until about the last quarter of the game. It takes a really weird turn with the story. Gameplay stays great throughout, but there is a point in the story where it did something that I was like, oh, I didn't love that, and it kind of dampened my experience a little bit. But still, overall, great game. I definitely recommend it if you're into single player games and you don't really know what to play right now. I enjoyed it. I probably beat it in about 8 hours or so, so it's not terribly long. It's not difficult by any means. There's some collectibles you can go back and find and everything. It was just a very good game. I enjoyed it, and yeah, that's all I've really got to say on it. Just a great game.
That's good to hear. I've heard a lot of great things on it so far, and I've been considering picking it up myself. How would you stack it with some of the other big narrative marquee titles that we've had this year? Would you say it's definitely one worth playing, or just kind of get to it when you can?
Let's see. Narrative marquee games. So you're thinking Resident Evil, maybe?
Yeah, I would say it's fair to throw its hat in the ring.
Because I this year, there hasn't really been much.
That's fair. I guess this year has been quiet. Most of the ones I was thinking of kind of launched last year, like Detroit Become Human, the final wrap-up of some of the Tales games and things like that. Would you say that it belongs alongside that caliber, or maybe wait for a sale?
If you are into single-player games, definitely buy it. At full price, it's like $50, and I think it's on sale on Xbox right now for like $30, and you can get it even cheaper pre-owned in some areas. If you are not necessarily into like single player games like that, definitely it's not something that's gonna change your mood on single player games. But if you're into that kind of game, if you're into a good story, if you're into just a very gripping world and everything like that, and you like creepy shit like me with thousands and thousands of rats everywhere, definitely give it a try. We're talking about our games of the year later on in the show, but this is definitely one that it's probably one of my favorite games that come out so far this year.
It's good to hear. High praise.
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you have anything else to talk about?
I've got nothing. I've really been grinding Destiny 2 super hard. I've been itching to get back into World War Z, as it's something I was playing quite some time ago. The problem with it, though, is that it's very Left 4 Dead-ish, but with those games, they're at their best when you're playing with other people, and namely other people you know, to be honest. So that's something I've been wanting to get back into, but none of our friends group really has it
because they're terrible, and why are we friends with them?
You're right. You're absolutely
World
right.
War Z is an excellent game.
It's fantastic,
Whenever you're down to play it, I'm down. You just gotta let me know, because I would definitely be down to get back into that.
We'll have to find some time too, because it's a very, very well polished, well thought out game, and I've been enjoying the living hell out of it so far. I mean, just the shake up and the different objectives that you've got. Like you go from having to escape something to all of a sudden you're stuck in this giant mall area where you have to hold down and kind of hunker down and set all these like traps and defenses up so you can defend against a horde, and then you're on the move again, and so on and so forth. It just does a very good job of kind of mixing up the styling and doing it in a very, very good, fast-paced kind of action vibe to the whole thing. So Definitely a good one there. We should certainly find some time to play it because I'm definitely starting to get burnt out on Destiny a little bit again. So, but yeah, I mean that's kind of all I'm touching right now. Any other ones on your list?
So I played a little bit of Apex in the last week. Definitely not as much as I was before. Like you said, all you guys have been playing a lot of Destiny. So Apex I enjoy, but it's still that thing with battle royales that I cannot get into them when I'm playing solo. Like I tried because I'm like, oh, I bought the season pass, even though they're not playing it. I feel like I should get my money's worth out of it, and I just can't get into it alone. It's so much better with friends. So not played as much of that in the last week. The one thing I have been playing more of is Mario Maker 2. Me and Joel talked about this a bit last week. I finished the single player portion of the game sometime within the last week, and very enjoyable. I'm sure that I mentioned last week about how I love how just the levels change up so differently from one to the next, because you're playing with all these different games mechanics and everything. And it's also that thing that I love watching people play this game on YouTube and Twitch. It's just so much fun seeing people like rage at it or just do some truly amazing things. The one video I keep seeing is it's the world is set up like World 1-1 from the original Super Mario, and there's just tons of fireballs spinning around and the guy's just jumping in between them, and I'm like, wow, I could never do this. I would fail instantly. So just something I really enjoy watching. But no, that's about all I've played this week. Anything else you want to talk about?
Not really. I mean, it's been pretty quiet for me. Like I said, just cramming way too much Destiny into my life. So, yeah, I mean, I'm good to move on.
All right, let's get into the news then. So our very first news topic we have is the Overwatch is finally getting a role queue to ensure better balanced teams. This is from Imran Khan of Game Informer. After years of requests, Blizzard has implemented role queuing into Overwatch. This lets players choose a role like support, tank, or damage, and go into matches specifically for characters in that role. Blizzard's Jeff Kaplan explained the reasoning in this new developer update. Okay, I can kind of just go off of what I've got here. So, did you watch this video at all of Jeff Kaplan talking about this?
I did not, but I did hear some talk about it earlier, so I'm pretty familiar with what's going on.
Okay. So, you played some Overwatch in the past, you know the competitive thing, you get your SR, it goes up and down with your wins and losses. Well, with the role queue, now you're going to have 3 different SRs, one for your tank, your damage, and your support characters. Because once you go into a game, this is in both quick play and competitive, you choose what you want to play for that game, and you are locked off on that role for the entire game. There's no way to back out of it. Once you're into the game, you're stuck there. Unless you want to take like a huge penalty and get banned for like 10 minutes. So this is something that I've been really waiting on them to do. This also locks teams into having a 2-2-2 format, which is 2 tanks, 2 damage, 2 supports. It's been a very popular thing ever since the game launched. I was always going back and forth on that part of it though, because I've always been a big fan of having 3 DPS on a team, but of course everyone loves GOATs, 3 tanks and 3 supports, and that's been like the huge thing for the last year, and everyone's getting tired of it. So I'm okay with them going to a 2-2-2 now. I'm not sure if this will actually like make me crawl back in to playing Overwatch like every single day like I was for a while, but this is definitely a good step in the right direction. It's just it shows that they're finally looking to work at it, and this has been something that I feel like we've been complaining about for like at least 2 years now, is just no improvements on the game itself. They're always, oh, here's our new skins with the event, we're working on stuff. We're still working on stuff. Oh, we're working on it. And now we're finally seeing something come of it. It's available now on the PTR on PC. There is going to be like a beta sometime next month. I'm not sure if that's on console and PC, but they did say that it is going live September 1st everywhere. So, what do you think of this?
Yeah, looking into this, I feel like there's a lot of goods and bads here, and we're really going to have to kind of wait to see how this shakes out to really know if this is a good change and a healthy change, or if it's going to be something that kind of is very divisive among players. This is something that I think will do a very good job of maybe helping those solo queue players become more effective in their roles and kind of play what they want to. You don't have everybody trying to insta-lock damage or insta-lock tank and nobody playing support. And it also helps people that are a little more serious about it, playing at higher levels, kind of, make sure that they're getting what they need to be effective as a team. Because a lot of times in higher queues and in tiers, you would start encountering issues where people would start throwing or getting toxic, which is obviously an issue that Overwatch has had for a very long time, and they would just switch off to, a throw pick or something and just throw the match. This kind of locks them to those specific roles that they committed to, and having the different SRs for it is pretty interesting too. I'm interested to see how that shakes up all the matchmaking and queuing, though, because I feel like splitting it and segregating it into 3 different queues, also kind of splitting the player base like that. I wonder how matchmaking times are going to look. They do have like a splash screen up, is just a flavor image when talking about it in the article here, and it actually has queue times, or suggested queue times down at the bottom. Which is a great function, and it might even drive some players into playing roles that they're not used to, which is super cool too. That being said, I think that this may harm some of the high-level comp plays that we've seen out of the pro scene. When you lock it down to 2-2-2, you kind of remove a lot of things out of the equation, and just is a little worrying that we don't see things get shifted or changed up a lot on that level, because that's where a lot of people look to find out what they should be doing or how they should be playing. And when you limit it like this, I'm just curious to see how that's going to change people's creativity, if it will change their creativity, or if this is really something that's just kind of negligible. I'm not sure which way this is going to go yet.
Oh yeah, I think you're hitting on all the points brilliantly here. With the matchmaking stuff, the biggest thing I was wondering about is how it's going to affect playing with your friends. So right now, the way it is around where you and I play, we've got to be within 500 points, if I remember right.
Yeah.
What happens when I'm playing damage and I'm at, let's say 3,200 and you're playing tank and you're at 2,600, but normally we would be playing together. If we choose those 2 roles, are we going to be cut off from each other? Like, that's the kind of thing that I'm like,
I'm not sure. Question.
I'm not sure how they're going to handle it. You mentioned the queue times and everything. Yeah, that is awesome. I'm glad to see that. Of course, if you want to play damage, you're probably going to be waiting a bit longer because everyone wants to play damage. But it does definitely help with those throw picks, because you do know you're locked in. Hey, this is what I'm playing this game. I don't have to go into a game anymore saying, okay, I'm a Tracer main. I really want to play Tracer, but when I jump in, 3 other people choose DPS, so I'm like, okay, well, to help us win, I need to jump on something else, even though I'm not feeling that at the moment. That's where I think this is really great, but it's not a foolproof thing. There are going to be little hiccups here now and then. We don't know how the matchmaking will actually how it will handle all this, because it's been on it's been on a focus thing for so long, the one SR thing. I kind of worry about it splitting up into 3, how many mistakes it will make. Like, is it just going to throw us into a game with people way above or way below our skill level, even though it shouldn't be? Are we going to be completely starting over with our SR, or are we just are all 3 versions going to be right at where they're left off with that one. Still a lot of questions, but definitely excited to see what's going to come of this. And like I said, I hope this is the first step in what might be a really good direction for Overwatch overall.
Yeah, it's a lot of very interesting changes. It's good to see that they're doing something, and to see them take this drastic of a measure with it, that lets me know that they're not afraid to kind of try and reinvent themselves, which is great for the future. But I really think, like you had kind of alluded to there, that this is something we just got to wait and see. Check out this betas, check out the PTR, let's see how it goes, and go from there.
Oh, yeah. And before we move on, let them know what you think of it. If you're playing the PTR, tell them if you like it, where you think they can improve on things. This is the best way to help developers fix things before they get broken. And so be sure to let your voice be heard. You want to take the next story, Connor?
Sure. So, if you remember the Marvel Avengers game, it is getting some more details here very, very soon. So, you might be unfamiliar, but this weekend is San Diego Comic-Con, or commonly known as SDCC. Marvel has announced that they're giving some new details on the Avengers game from Crystal Dynamics at this conference on Saturday, I believe. And actually, after some of this stuff goes up, they said that the footage that is going live is going to be available for the public to view after Gamescom, I believe, which is pretty awesome. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But aside from there is some other news that they dropped as well. So company explained that once, and we're reading here from a GameSpot article by Steve Watts. The company explained that once you finish the prologue, which acts as an introduction to each of its major characters, the world opens up and you gain access to a base on a reclaimed helicarrier. From there, you'll launch into single-player or co-op missions. The story campaign will be recognizable as a linear action game, with you playing each character as the story unfolds. The story trailer hinted at cameos from other notable names in the Marvel Universe, as it was narrated by Kamala Khan, aka Miss Marvel, who was attending the A-Day celebration. For online missions, you can customize each Avenger with their own skill trees and cosmetics, and then team up with friends. The panel didn't announce what the larger world missions will consist of, but it's separate from the standard story missions. Fans will be able to see all of this for themselves shortly after Gamescom. The panel announced that footage of the demo will be released the week after that event, which is set to take place in late August. So people that have been pining for more on this game, just to see what that actual gameplay is like, and not just some cinematic trailer that they throw up, we do not have to wait too much longer. Sounds like towards the late end of August, early September, we're going to actually get some hands-on details and some actual footage of gameplay for this game. So super, super exciting. I know I'm very stoked to see more on this game. I think that Marvel has done such a fantastic job with their cinematic franchise, and it has been far too long since we've got some really, really good video games out of it. So I'm really stoked to see what Crystal Dynamics can pull off here, and honestly just get my hands on it here next year. What do you think about that?
I'm super excited to see this new stuff. I know a lot of people were down on what they showed of Avengers at E3 because there were bits and pieces of gameplay in there, but not enough nearly. I personally thought the character models looked fine. I'm excited for the story. I'm just huge in the Marvel right now, and this is probably the game I am looking forward to the most next year. Definitely gonna be I'm gonna be paying attention to it once this new stuff comes out. There's supposed to be like some Destiny elements to it, so I'm interested to see just what comes out of that. But overall, very excited and can't wait to see it.
Definitely. I mean, this is a game that a lot of people have been pining for details on, and I agree. There was a lot of feedback around that first kind of cinematic showing that Square Enix gave us at E3 that was less than positive, and I certainly came away with some concerns too. But we got to remember that this is relatively early footage. This game is still quite a ways out from being finished, so we got to give it time, let it kind of breathe and do its thing. And I'm just hoping to see some awesome gameplay at this point.
Oh yeah, like I said, huge in the Marvel. Crystal Dynamics is a great company. I love everything they've done with the Tomb Raider series, so definitely excited to see what they can do with Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Moving on, there is a new Nintendo Switch model coming out that will have a longer battery life. This is from Matt Purslow of IGN. Nintendo has announced a new version of the original Nintendo Switch console that offers longer battery life. The new version of the console, as shown on the Nintendo website, will offer a significantly improved battery life. The new version is said to offer approximately between 4.5 to 9 hours of battery life compared to the 2.5 to 6.5 hours provided by the current model. Nintendo notes that battery life is dependent on the game being played. An example is offered in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which can run for 3 hours on the current Switch hardware and 5.5 hours on the updated console. What are your thoughts on this, Connor?
So I've got a few thoughts on this. Start off with my personal thoughts here first. This kind of has made my decision very difficult, as I have been kind of leaning back and forth. I have the current Nintendo Switch, and I've been considering pre-ordering the Switch Lite when that goes up for pre-order and locking in one of those, as I play my Switch in mostly handheld mode. That being said, though, I do like a lot of the features that the current Switch has. Like, one of my favorite things is just being able to drop it on the dock to charge it. Even though I'm not using it for the television, it's just so space-agey and super, super cool that I love that functionality, and I'm not sure I want to give it up. This kind of muddies the waters for me even more, and almost convinces me just to buy the refreshed Switch. You know, this isn't like a huge upgrade or anything, or, you know, they're not packaging it different. It's just going to be a soft hardware rollout over time. So you'll have to kind of check boxes for serial numbers and whatnot. But this extra battery life is awesome. But the one big thing that this tells me is that if there is a Switch Pro, or if Nintendo still plans to go ahead with plans for a Switch Pro, that those plans are a ways out at this point, because you wouldn't go through the trouble of updating your current hardware like this if you were just going to turn around in the next couple months and release something new anyway. So this definitely kind of breathes life into the current Switch and lets people know that, hey, you know, what you've got is totally fine. It's not going anywhere. You don't have to worry about anything great. And I think this is also a good thing for the Switch Lite too, to tell people, hey, you know, if you're holding out for that Pro, it's not going to be here anytime soon. You know, maybe you grab the Lite and hang out with that for a little bit, or maybe the Pro never comes. You know, it's something to think about at this point. But I think it's pretty cool that they're adding some extra battery life to this, and honestly, I might just pick one of these up and get rid of my current Switch.
Yeah, you gotta figure if it's just another original Nintendo Switch, they're not increasing the price or anything. So there's not really much you're losing on just doing that. I mean, it's not, of course, it's never a 1-to-1 switch or a 1-to-1 trade or anything, so you're going to pay a little bit for that battery life, but I would completely be fine with that. I never really thought I was going to get the Switch Lite, because I already own 2 Switches, one for me and one for my daughter, and even though I mostly only played mine in handheld mode, I do love the ability to play it on my TV as well. Like you said, I love the dock. There's many things about it that I just love the way it is, so I don't see myself going to the Lite, although that D-pad on the Lite is awesome, and I just want them to bring that out on normal Joy-Cons already.
Absolutely.
Like, come on, dudes. But no, this is an awesome announcement. Like you said, the Pro, if they're still doing that, that's a ways off by now. You gotta figure at least 2 years before we see anything like that now, with 2 models being released this year. Yeah, no, some interesting stuff for Nintendo, but really, I mean, this is just them covering their grounds. Like this is just more stuff for them to sell. They're like, hey, yeah, oh, you already bought a Switch? Here's another one with better battery life. Give us more money. Like, there's not really a way that they lose here, because the Switch is still the most popular console right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, any way you cut this, you know, there's no cons for people that already have Switches. There's not a new version that makes yours obsolete, so you don't have to rush out to get one. But for the people that are okay with that, or people that are worried about battery degradation over time, they can go out and pick out one that's a newer version and get a little extra for doing that. So it's kind of a brilliant business move, because they can kind of turn those one-time sales that they had before into potentially two-time sales. This is a system that's sold hotcakes since it's released. It's one of the highest and best-selling consoles of all time at this point. And for them to kind of find a way to create additional value for the consumer without kind of trying super, super hard is just awesome. So very smart on Nintendo's part. And honestly, I may even pick up one of these before too long. So we'll see.
Oh, yeah. I'll definitely consider it as well. All right. Moving on to our final news story. So the new earnings report for Microsoft or Xbox came out recently because the quarter ended. This article is from Eddie McCouch of GameSpot. Microsoft reported earnings for its latest period today, and the company's gaming numbers were up and down. For the quarter ended June 30th, total gaming revenue for Microsoft was $2.053 billion, which is down 10% from $2.286 billion this quarter last year. Hardware revenue specifically was down 48% due to a decrease in the number of consoles sold. A downturn in console sales is to be expected, given the Xbox One has been on sale since 2013. It's also a historical pattern that console sales drop before the release of new hardware, and that seems to be the case here with Project Scarlet slated for release in holiday 2020. Another thing to consider is that the money in gaming is made with software and services, not console hardware. It's not just Microsoft that's experiencing a downturn in hardware sales. The NPD Group reported today that total hardware spending in the United States fell 33% year over year. PS4 sales are falling as well, only the Nintendo Switch posted year-over-year growth. Microsoft's gaming revenue from software and services for the period was down a more modest 3%, and Microsoft said this downturn was due in part to the same quarter last year being exceptionally strong due to a third-party title, which is likely a reference to Fortnite. Also, Microsoft said its subscription revenue grew in the latest quarter, which is a positive. And then they just go on and talk more numbers. Really, Connor, what do you take from this?
Yeah, diving into these numbers here, it really sings a story that is not surprising at all. I mean, for some time now, we've known that we're kind of approaching the end of this generation very quickly, and even if Microsoft and Sony are kind of extending these generations with things like backwards compatibility or crossplay or whatever have it, there is still a new generation of hardware right around the corner. And that always, I mean, time tells that, hardware sales are going to drop a lot. And then you have new players in the game on top of that. Google Stadia, even though they're not necessarily a hardware solution, they're more of a software solution for gaming. Gamers have more choice than ever now to kind of play where they want, how they want, and when they want, which is great. I mean, this is a great time to be a gamer. Great time to get into video games, and it's just an awesome time for us all together. That being said, with those hardware sales downtrending, Microsoft services revenue being up is a song of success for the fact that they've been pivoting very hard to a services focus over the past couple of years. I mean, you've seen them really, really go after Game Pass. They've gotten phenomenal deals with those. Game Pass Ultimate is one of the best gaming deals out there, period, right now. I mean, the fact that you can spend $15, get your Xbox Live, get Xbox Game Pass, and then Game Pass for PC with hundreds of titles among all three of those services and other offerings, you just cannot beat that value. And with them posting numbers up in that division, it just shows that where they've put their focus and what they've chose to spend time on is starting to pay off, and that Microsoft has kind of learned their lesson, and they seem to have come out a stronger company for it as far as their Xbox division is concerned. And it's great to see. I mean, I think Microsoft is posed for or poised to have a incredible next generation launch with whatever they plan to do, as long as they don't botch it, of course. But I think that they're in a really, really good place right now, and this will probably only increase. Hardware sales will go ahead and tick back up when we have a new console, but these services, that's really where the money is. I mean, a lot of people don't know, but companies like Microsoft actually like to sell their platforms at a loss in a lot of cases. Xbox has traditionally used this to increase install base as much as possible. A lot of times they will take a loss. They will literally lose money to sell you a console so that they can sell you a ton of games with it and make money from the publishing and everything, because it's true. That's exactly where the money is. And that's why companies like Stadia and whoever else is in the streaming game are moving to that software model and solution instead of a hardware solution. So really nothing too surprising here, other than just seeing that Microsoft is doing well with what they're trying to do, and that they are really poised to have a great next couple of years if they kind of stay on course.
Yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the head here. Every year, or every generation, consoles start dying down in sales towards the end. We got our official announcement of Project Scarlet, and we know for sure it's coming out next holiday. No surprise to me at all that things are starting to drop down. This console generation's been going for 6 years, which compared to the 360 and the PS3, those went like 8-9 years, I want to say.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, around there. So this is shorter than then, but if you look at the grand scheme of things, this is like the second longest generation ever. So it's been a very successful generation, even for Microsoft, who the PS4 has just been gone in a way the most successful thing in this generation. But Microsoft was reporting earnings that were like the best they ever had, even comparing it to the 360 back in the day. So they don't care if they're losing out on hardware right now, because they are selling Game Pass. They are selling more games and these services. Like you said, Game Pass Ultimate, I mean, that's by far the best deal in all of gaming right now. $15 a month to get a ton of games, play online, where you can also get free games to keep forever. Like, there is nothing else like that out there, and that's why you see companies like Ubisoft, EA, Sony's gonna get in on it in the future, just that kind of subscription model. And ever since Phil Spencer took over Xbox in like 2015 or so, he's definitely the whole Xbox division has been playing everything so smartly. We know they're going into the xCloud stuff this year and all this streaming hardware, and partnering up with Sony of all people on streaming stuff, and working with Nintendo, bringing their own published games over to the Switch. Like, just so much of what they're doing is just good for gamers in general, but just also smart from a business standpoint, because they are still making a ton of money. I used to get in arguments a lot with people from cultureofgaming.com because they didn't like that Microsoft wasn't focusing on themselves, that they were bringing stuff to the Nintendo Switch and stuff. And at the end of the day, they are a business still, and they're making money off this, so they don't care. Like, if they're not only making money on all this, they're building up goodwill. Like you said, they are setting themselves up for just great success this next console generation. You always hear people talking about how excited they are for Project Scarlet, even though we haven't even seen the thing yet. But there's a lot of hype building up to that with xCloud and just Game Pass in general, where with the PS5 right now, we've got fast load times. Like, that's all we know on them. And that's not a knock against Sony or anything. They're gonna reveal that stuff at a later date, but it's just the past couple years, the Switch and the PS4 are by far the most successful consoles. But Xbox has silently really built up a lot of goodwill with people, and I think it's awesome.
Not only that, I mean, you have to consider that these guys started this generation far, far behind. I mean, the Don Matrick days ruined the Xbox reputation for a lot of people and made it so that people just weren't interested. They did not want an Xbox. You saw a lot of people migrate to the Sony platform, and then Switch came out, granted much later than the two platforms, and everybody that was a Nintendo fan went for that platform. And so Microsoft came from a place where they were, for all intents and purposes, the loser of this generation. Mm-hmm. They were so far behind, and to see them being looked at under the magnifying glass now of, hey, you know, these guys are starting to dip, what's going on, that really shows how they've turned things around, you know, because years ago you would see articles, oh, you know, Xbox is doomed, they're getting rid of it, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, they're getting rid of the Xbox division.
Right. PS4 is outselling the Xbox 4-1, blah, 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 blah. And that's just not the case anymore, you know. Granted, they are not selling hardware on the level that Sony is or Nintendo is right now, but they are performing in their own successful way, and they're setting themselves up to have a great next couple of years. I mean, I really don't think that this next generation of consoles is going to have such a wide gap between two of them like we saw this past generation. You know, Sony was hardcore outselling the Xbox and still does outsell the Xbox in some cases, but there have been months, in periods of months on end, where Xbox has outsold Sony, which is incredible considering how they started. And not only that, to throw a few more numbers out here, they have grown their Xbox Live user base to 65 million for the quarter, which is up 14% compared to the 57 million that was reported last year. That is a lot of new members and players joining their ecosystem, and that really just sets them up for a great place. And it is great because they're meeting consumers where consumers are at. You know, they're not saying you have to buy this Xbox to be a part of the Xbox family. You know, you can do it on your computer now. If you have a computer, you can start getting into stuff on your phone when xCloud becomes a reality. And they're really kind of branching out, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's just smart moves all around. Great job.
Oh yeah, I already mentioned how much I just love Phil Spencer, but like just thinking back when he took over Xbox, like you mentioned the Don Matrick days, like the Xbox was not looking good at the time. You have all these articles talking about bad things happening, and is Microsoft just going to get rid of Xbox altogether? Phil Spencer takes over, and since he took over, I can't think of like a single misstep he's taken. Like, yeah, it's just been good things. It was, okay, the Kinect, no longer a part of the Xbox. You can get the Xbox on its own. Here's Game Pass. Here's better games with gold. Here's all these different improvements. Here's what's coming in the future. Our E3, we are only talking about games. We're not talking about services, and we're not talking about TV. We are focused on the gamers. We got the big Xbox Fan Fest back up, and everyone loved that as well. Like, it's just been good story after good story coming from Phil Spencer. The Xbox One X with the Project Scorpio chip in his pocket at all times. That was an awesome story. And you hear him talk about how much he's impressed with xCloud and how confident he is in the Microsoft team's xCloud technology and everything. It's just good story after good story. And it's just amazing to me just how much he has turned Xbox around in just a few years, really.
I agree. I mean, Phil Spencer's been nothing but on a win streak this entire time. You know, he made all the strategic decisions that they needed to make. He made the hard calls, and his progression through the company to sit at the level he's sitting on now. I mean, he's on the board of directors for Microsoft. So he isn't just a part of Xbox anymore. I mean, he is a huge part of this company, and it really shows how focused Microsoft is on growing and strengthening their Xbox platform, even though it did have some subpar performance in the early years with the Xbox One. So this is great stuff. You know, I think that we're going to continue to see things like this. Like I said, the fact that hardware sales have dropped, not surprising. I wouldn't be surprised if Sony reports some losses or not necessarily over a year-over-year growth with their platform. because we're just at that time. It's something that happens, especially as we kind of transition into what seems to be a new life for consoles and video games. So this is simple stuff, but I think it sings a very good song for Xbox, but not only Xbox, the entire games industry. So it's awesome.
I'm sure. July 30th is the earnings report for Sony, Nintendo, and EA. Take-Two and Activision have theirs in August. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we end up talking about the Sony and Nintendo ones at the very least on the show. So definitely keep your eyes out for that. Should be some interesting stuff coming out of there. My prediction right now is, Sony takes a bit of a dip, especially since Death Stranding is like their only big game coming this year that we know of, I guess I should say. But Nintendo, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them grow. All right, Connor, it's time for our topic of the show.
Oh, man.
Just so you know, you can reach us at Pixel Street Podcast. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about during this section. We will talk about anything. We've talked about Mr. Potato Head in the past, Toy Story 4. I will talk about your dogs. I will give you the deets on Haley's big date the other night. Just tell me you want to hear about it, and I will talk about it. But this week we didn't have any submissions for that, so I came up with my own. I wanted to talk about this last week with Joel, but he said, I don't like video games. I don't have anything. I want to talk about our game of the year so far in 2019. Maybe just do like a top 3 and our number ones we can both go into. My number 3, A Plague Tale: Innocence. I definitely haven't, like I said earlier in the show, enjoyed it so much. So much good there. Number 2, Mario Maker 2. Never had a Wii U. Really enjoyed being able to play this, and I'm excited to play more of it. I plan on streaming it, just haven't gotten around to it. And my number 1 is World War Z so far. I've talked about this a lot this year. I love this game. I'm a huge Left 4 Dead fan. Absolutely love the way this game has been put together, and I can't wait to see what comes down the road. I'm not sure if they've announced a roadmap or DLC or anything, but I really hope that they come out with it. What about you, Connor?
Yeah, if I had to sink something into the number 3 spot, I think I'd have to go with World War Z. It's very well done, very well polished. I just really wish we would have got a larger release for something like this, because the game is so good. I wish more people were playing it, and I really feel like that was just maybe due to lack in marketing or lack in funds for marketing or whatever it may be. The game is very, very good, and I agree that it definitely deserves a spot up there at the top. So that's my number 3. At number 2, I'm going to go with Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, the latest FromSoft game. I think that it's very good for what it is. It does a very good job of kind of taking that FromSoft DNA and plugging it into another franchise, and kind of becoming its own thing. I was a huge Tenchu fan back in the day, and I was upset that we didn't get a new Tenchu, but Sekiro is a very, very good kind of substitute for that, and I think it's very well done, very well polished. The story's great, graphics are pretty good for what they are, and so for that it deserves to sit at the number 2 spot. That being said, this brings us to my number 1, which I have to say is The Division 2. It's a game that I really should get back to playing, and should jump back into, as I have kind of fell off as of late. But it is a very, very polished, well done, well thought out, phenomenal experience from top to bottom. I was a huge fan of The Division 1 back in the day. I thought it was very well done for what it was, a very good competitor to the Destiny of the time, and this one just ramps it all up a notch. The attention to detail is incredible, the graphics are great, the gameplay is smooth, everything is very well polished, and it just offers some of the best experiences that you can get currently this year for no extra charge. I mean, all of its DLC is free. You don't pay anything for this DLC. Granted, there is a season pass that you can purchase to early unlock some stuff, but all of the things that they're adding to it is free, which I think is great. That seems to be the way the video game industry is shifting to, and it's great to see a AAA title take that stance. for the level of polish, for the level of awesomeness, and just sheer badass gameplay that game offers, that's why I'm going to put it at my number 1 spot, and say the Division 2 so far is my number 1 game for 2019 so far.
Division 2 is great. I need to go back and play the raid. I still haven't, but definitely enjoy it. Got any honorable mentions you want to throw out before we end stuff here?
Yeah, I think Mortal Kombat 11 definitely deserves that honorable mention. You know, the gameplay is very polished. It's one of the best fighting games on the market right now. It does have some issues around the edges with some of the other gameplay that's offered there, but I think at its core, Mortal Kombat 11 is very, very solid for what it is, and very well done. And I would also like to throw out a honorable mention to Metro Exodus. The Metro games are some of my favorite games that I've ever played. The stories are great, the gameplay is awesome, and I just love getting enveloped by that narrative and by that story. And Metro Exodus does a very good job of kind of building on that. Unfortunately, it didn't kind of gather the acclaim and the recognition that I thought it deserved, but I would definitely love to throw out an honorable mention for being just an awesome game.
Yeah, honorable mentions for me, Resident Evil 2. That was such a huge thing at the beginning of the year. People were waiting for that remake for so long, and it came out to great success. Rave reviews, good sales. Capcom is just firing on all cylinders right now. They are doing great stuff. Very exciting stuff to see. Kind of a personal honorable mention would be Kingdom Hearts 3. It is definitely not the best in the series, and I definitely had my complaints with it, but still very good game. Excited that it just finally came out or after 11 years. I mean, 2019, I think 2017 and 18, so at this point in the year, they were better years, but 2019 definitely has some gems in it, and if you're going about your day thinking that there's nothing for you to play, you don't have your eyes opened. Some really good stuff out there right now.
Absolutely, I agree. You know, it's a year that's kind of been overshadowed by the fact that the next gen's looming, that we've got a ton of other stuff coming up, and the massive AAA titles are next year. But I agree. I think there are some phenomenal hidden gems this year. You just got to know where to find them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But that does it for episode 68 of the Pixel Street podcast. You can find Joel at Campo63 on Twitter, and he's Mr. Finish Line on Mixer whenever he streams. I'm not sure if he even still streams there. You can find me on Twitter at RevXShadows. You can also look for me on YouTube. You can go to youtube.com/JohnJW92 or search Revix Shadows. Planning on getting some stuff out there soon. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, I will be reviewing Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 over the weekend, so probably we'll have that up at some point next week. Connor, where can the good people find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at TheRealBirch. That's Birch with no I. I'm also on Mixer by Birch, again with no I in team, so no I in mine.
I wanted to say it, but I'll let you have it this time. All right. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Be sure to follow us at Pixel Street Pod and tune in next week. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.